Hello everybody. Thank you Suzanne for inviting me to participate in this great event, which including many great work in the field of green chemistry, environmental preservation and sustainability. My name is Dr. Mahmoud Fathy Mubarak, Egyptian Petroleum Research Institute, a specialist in the field of water treatment and desalination. My paper title is Investigation of Adsorption of Phenol into Activated Carbon Thin Film Hybrid Carbon Nanostructure in Aqueous Solution. At first, the outline of my presentation will including introduction about the pollution and the phenol pollution in the water. Also, I will talk about our experimental work that is done in this paper. Also, the result and discussion, simple result and discussion. At the end, we will talk about the conclusion. At first, as we know, that is the water pollution refer to the presence of harmful substance in the water body, such as river, lakes, oceans, the groundwater. This substance may come from natural sources, but most of water pollution is caused by human activities such as industrial discharge, agriculture, runoff, and improper disposal of waste. Water pollution can have many serious negative impacts on human health, aquatic ecosystems, and environmental at all, and it has many sources of industrial discharge. Phenols is a toxic and potentially carcinogenic chemicals compound that can contaminate it in the water source. Sources of phenol we can set its may including industrial discharge from chemicals and petroleum plants, as well as runoff from landfill. Exposure to phenol contaminating water can cause many health problems, including irritation of the skin, eye, and the respiratory system, as well as more serious effects such as liver and kidney damage and cancers. Treatment of phenol from contaminated water can be challenged and may be require certain technologies such as activated carbon adsorption or reverse osmosis. Carbon nanostructure like activated carbon or graphene or carbon nanotubes can be used after modification or as a pristine form to purify the contaminated water. Overall, the synthesis of activated carbon or graphene sheets from green sources, it is the famous challenges nowadays. As we can said before, the green synthesis of the carbon nanostructure can be applied to synthesis of carbon nanostructure from natural sources to reduce environmental impacts and promoting sustainability. One example of the green synthesis of the carbon nanostructure is the use of renewable and non-toxic strategy materials such as plant-derived sugars or waste material. Another approach it is to use energy efficient and environmentally friendly synthesis methods such as microwaves assisted or hydrothermal synthesis. Recycling and reusing material during the synthesis process can also help minimize waste and reduce environmental impact. By applying the green chemistry principle to the synthesis of the carbon nanostructure from natural sources, it is possible to create more sustainable and eco-friendly process for the production of the important material. Carbon nanostructure, as we can see from this figure, can be synthesized from natural sources such as biomass, plant, and animal wastes. One method of the synthesis involved is the pyrolysis, like heating in the absence of oxygen for the natural materials such as wood or plant or fibers, as we can see, to generate the carbon nanostructure. Also, natural sources such as sugar or cellulose can generate carbon nanostructure through chemical or thermal process. In our work in this paper, with the synthesis of the activated carbon thin film hybrid carbon nanostructure involved the reduction of the graphene oxides using activated carbon as a reducing agent, which resulted in the formation of hybrid structure as we can see on the image in the lower right, and that is showing the hybrid structure composed of graphene sheets alternated with activated carbon that is comes from natural source like cellulose. It is produced from woods, and graphene that is produced from graphite. Some chemicals can use this during this synthesis process like HClNOH or potassium permanganate and H2O2, which are used to adjust the pH and initiate the reduction reaction. The resulting material has a potential application especially in the removing of phenols. The resulting materials or carbon nanostructure can be characterized using TIM XRD FETIR analysis that is provide a comprehensive and the characterization of the microstructure, crystal structure, phase composition, chemical composition, and the functional group present in the activated carbon thin film, which can be useful for understanding and optimizing the properties for various applications. Also, we do some batch experiment like effect of pH and doses and effect of temperature and contact times to overcome the adsorption process of the phenol on the activated carbons. By varying these parameters, it is possible to determine the optimal condition for the adsorption of phenol on the activated carbons in film and to understand the mechanism underlying the adsorption process. As a result of our characterization using FETR and XRD and the TEM instrument, we can see from the FETR analysis it is used to study the functional group that is present on the carbon nanostructure layer activated carbon thin film. FETR spectra of activated carbon thin film typically show a broad peak at around 3,400 to 3,500 cm-1, which corresponding to OH or NH stretching vibration of the surface functional group. Although peak may be also present at the lower wavelengths, indicating the presence of the functional group CH, C single O, and C double bond O. FETIR spectra can be also used to identify the specific function group present in the activated carbon thin film, which can help to understand the adsorption mechanism and the surface properties of the material. XRD analysis used to study the crystal structure and orientation of the activated carbon thin film. XRD pattern of the activated carbon thin film typically show broad peak with a lower intensity, indicating that the material has a disordered and amorphous structure. However, some sharp peaks may be also present in the figure, as you can see, indicating the presence of older crystalline phase such as graphene or carbon nanotubes if we work on carbon nanotubes, but here it is a graphene sheet. The position and intensity and the weight of XRD peaks can provide information on the degree of crystallinity, crystal size, and elastic spacing of the material, like ACTF in our work. TEM image, as we can see, it is used to study the morphology and the composition and the topography and the chemical composition of the activated carbon thin film at the nanoscale. TEM of activated carbon thin film typically show porous structures with a high surface area and irregular shapes. As we can see, it is a combination between activated carbons and the graphene sheets in parallel to each other. The lattice spacing of the material can be measured from TEM image using selected area electron diffraction SCAED or high resolution TEM techniques. The chemical composition of the material also can be used if we study the X-ray spectroscopy dispersive X-ray. If we look for the adsorption results like effect of dose, the dose refer to the amount. As we can see, the dose refer to the amount of activated carbon thin film used in the batch study. Increasing the dose of activated carbon thin film can lead to the higher phenol removal efficiency, as there are more adsorption sites available on the binding of the phenol molecules. However, on a certain point, further increase in the dose may not result in a significant improvement in the phenol removal efficiency, as we can see from this figure. With respect to the initial concentration of phenol refers to the concentration of phenol in the solution at the beginning of the batch study. Higher initial concentration of the phenol can lead to lower phenol removal efficiency, as we can see from the figure. There are more phenol molecules competing for the adsorption site on the activated carbon thin film. At lower initial concentrations, the activated carbon thin film may be able to remove nearly all the phenol molecules from the solution. With respect to the effect of contact time, refer to the length of the time that is activated carbon thin film is allowed to interact with the phenol solution in the batch study. Increasing the contact time, as we can see from this figure, or the length of the time that is activated carbon is allowed to interact with phenol, lead to a higher phenol removal efficiency, as more time is allowed for the phenol molecule to adsorb onto the activated carbon thin film. However, beyond a certain point, further increasing the contact time may no effect resulted in a significant improvement in the removal efficiency, so there we reach the equilibrium state. With respect to the effect of temperature, the temperature of the batch study can affect the rate and the content of the phenol adsorption onto the activated carbon thin film. In general, higher temperature can increase the rate of the adsorption but may also decrease. As we can see here in our result, the capacity of the activated carbon thin film to adsorb phenol. The optimal temperature for phenol adsorption on activated carbon thin film depends on the specific condition and the properties of the material. Here, we found it is decreasing with increasing the temperature, that is indicating some more physical adsorption of the phenol. With respect to the effect of pH value of the solution can affect on the surface charge of the activated carbon as we can see from this figure. In general, the adsorption of the phenol on the activated carbon thin film is favored at a lower pH, as the surface charge of the material is more positive. However, at very low or very high pH values, adsorption efficiency may be reduced, as we can see here from the figure, due to the change in the ionization state of the phenol molecules or activation of other competing adsorption mechanisms. The interpretation of batch studies generally result for phenol adsorption on the activated carbon thin film depend on a variety of the factors, as we can see the initial concentration or dose or contact time, temperature, and pH. By varying these parameters, as we can see from this figure, and analyzing the result, it is possible to optimize the adsorption process and understanding the mechanism under which the adsorption of phenol onto the activated carbon thin film take place. During the study of the modeling of kinetics and isotherm and thermodynamics, we can see from the kinetics modeling. Kinetics modeling refers to mathematical description of the adsorption process over the film with time, which can help in understanding the rate and the mechanism of the adsorption process. For adsorption of phenol-activated carbon thin film, the kinetic mode including pseudo-first and pseudo-second and the particle diffusion, as we can see, the pseudo-first order assumes that is the rate of adsorption proportional to the number of unoccupied sites. With respect to the second order, it is applied here. It is having a high R squared. So there are here a chemical adsorption process depending on two material, not one. If we're looking for the isothermal using Langmuir differential and Timken and DR as models, we here describe the adsorption or equilibrium adsorption capacity of the activated carbon thin film as a function of equilibrium concentration of phenol on the solution. Common isotherm, as we said before, Langmuir and differential and Timken and the DR. As we can see here, that is differential isotherm apply the adsorption mechanism. So here heterogeneous surface with different active site. By comparing the experimental data with the isothermal model, it is possible to determine the maximum adsorption capacity, the affinity of the activated carbon thin film for phenol, and the nature of adsorption process. With respect to reusability, as we can see here, there are a small change with more 5 cycles using our activated carbon thin film, so it is durable and stable material for longer time and different cycles to remove phenol, so it is efficient and economical. At the conclusion, we can say that the activated carbon thin film show an excellent adsorption capacity for removing of phenol. The adsorption process influenced by several parameters, as we can see at pH and doses and contact times. The adsorption kinetics follow second order, indicating that the rate limiting step is the chemosorption of the phenol on the surface of the activated carbon. Also, the isotherm follows the Friedrich, indicating heterogeneous surface. Thermodynamics also indicating that the process is exothermic and spontaneous. This result suggests that the activated carbon thin film has a great potential for use in the wastewater treatment application, like removal of phenol. At the end, I would like to say thank you once again to this in charge of this conference, and sorry for the lengthy presentation. I invite you to visit our beloved Egypt and enjoy the beautiful tourist places. Thank you and goodbye.